they asked Pilate, and they came and they got Jesus's body and they laid it in a brand new tomb that no one had ever been in before. And it was actually Joseph of Arimathea. It was his tomb, and he was going to give it to the Lord to be buried in. They took a huge stone and they rolled it in front of the tomb entrance. Well, do you know what happened? Remember some of those Pharisees and Sadducees? Yeah, they're the ones that aren't very nice. Isn't that sad? Because they're the ones that are part of that church, the temple there. And they weren't very kind to Jesus whatsoever. In fact, they got together and remembered something. They said, oh, he said he's going to rise again on the third day. What if some of his followers take the body and say, Jesus rose from the dead, look. And they tricked us and took his body. They also probably wondered, what if Jesus does rise from the dead on the third day? They got worried. They got very worried about that. And they sent word to Pilate, and they said, Pilate, we need soldiers to guard that tomb. We need to put people guarding the tomb of Jesus so that nobody can take his body out, and we don't want him to be able to rise from the dead. Now, you and I both know nobody can stop the Lord. Not a bunch of guards, not 300, not 1,000 could stop the Lord from rising from the dead. But the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all the religious leaders thought that they could stop Jesus. They were afraid that everybody would know Jesus was God. So Pilate sent the soldiers to guard the tomb, and they sealed the stone. So they didn't just put a huge boulder stone in front of it. They sealed it with something. I'm not sure what. But they tried to seal it shut so no one could get in and no one could get out. Well, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and some other women came to the tomb early that morning. But they did not see a stone in front of that tomb. They saw something very different. The stone that was covering the opening of the tomb was rolled away. There had been an earthquake, and an angel had come from heaven and rolled back the stone. When the guards saw the angel, they trembled, and the Bible says they were like dead men. Must have been like they passed out from fear. The Bible says the angel's face was like lightning. His clothes were as white as snow. Fear not, the angel said. I don't know about you, but even if an angel said fear not, I still might be a little to see an angel. What about you? And if his face is as white as lightning, he might be like the moon reflecting the sun's light. It's probably because he's been with the Lord and he's just glowing. And he said, fear not. I know you're looking for Jesus who was crucified, but he's not here. He rose from the dead, just like he said he would. Come in, see the place where the Lord was laying. Go tell the disciples that he's risen from the dead. Before the women left, they went into the tomb and they looked. They saw two angels, one at the head and one at the foot of the place where Jesus lay. Here's another picture of the women. Artists draw different pictures. We don't know exactly what they looked like, but it's neat to see different pictures, isn't it? Now, this is funny. The disciples heard the women, and they were like this. They did not believe the women. They thought the women were making it up. None of the disciples believed that what the women had seen. That's not very nice, is it? because Jesus had been saying that he was going to rise from the dead, and they would not believe the ladies when the ladies were trying to tell them. They had so much joy. They were telling them that the angel had appeared to them. But before they even got a chance to do that, Jesus appeared to them. Isn't that so kind of him? He always cares about boys, girls, women, men, cares about them all. The disciples didn't believe them, but Peter and John did race to the empty tomb. Peter went right in, and he saw those grave clothes that they had wrapped Jesus in. He saw them folded up, laying down. Even Jesus folded his clothes up. Isn't that amazing? People that are neat freaks sometimes like to hear that. He didn't just leave his grave clothes laying there. He actually folded them all up, and Peter ran in and saw them there. All of those clothes wrapped up, sitting right there in a separate spot. Then when John walked in and saw it, he also believed. Until then, they hadn't really understood what the Lord was telling them. Remember, before we were out of school, Jesus was trying to tell the disciples and they weren't understanding. It was too hard to understand. But those soldiers who passed out like dead men, they had to go tell Pilate. Do you think that Pilate and the religious leaders are going to be very happy to hear that they could not guard a tomb of a dead man? That not only did that man arise, but that they fainted and did not do anything about it. I think they're going to be in big trouble. Well, the religious leaders came and said, "We'll pay you money if you keep your lips zipped. Don't you dare tell the truth." That's not good, is it? They ran around lying. They lied when Jesus was having those mock trials. They now are paying soldiers a lot of money to lie. And guess what they told them to say? "Oh, don't worry about it. Just say that his disciples came at night and stole his body." That's not very truthful, honest, nothing. It's a total lie. The religious leaders said, "We promise we'll protect you from Pilate. Just tell a lie, say you fell asleep, and you didn't notice." So the soldiers did that. They spread the lie and they said, "Jesus didn't rise from the dead. We fell asleep and they stole the body when we were asleep." Did the soldiers steal the Lord's body? No. Boys and girls, nothing can hold your Jesus in a tomb. Nothing. Not a seal, not some soldiers, nothing. When it was time for him to rise from the dead, nothing could hold him back. And I think it's so kind that the first ones at his tomb were ladies. That shows that their heart was Jesus, wasn't it? They wanted to be near him, even if he was not alive. In their minds, they didn't care. They wanted to be close to him. Do you want to be close to him? I know sometimes I get busy and I don't stay close to him, but when I do, my face is different. It's kinder. It shines more. It's happier. Because when you're around him and you just are sitting there soaking in all of that love that he has for you, you shine. And that's what he asks us to do. He asks us to be a light in the world, not a darkness. Like our little song says, hide it under a bushel? No, I'm going to let it shine. So remember, the more time that you spend with him, the more you shine. If your face is like this all the time, that's not letting it shine, is it? Spend more time with him. And when you're around him, it rubs off on you. And you have a much better day. So I hope that this encouraged you today. Tomorrow we're going to learn who else the Lord shows himself to, because he cares. He showed himself to the women, but has he showed himself to the men disciples yet? Mm-mm. How do you think those disciples are feeling right now? Probably very sad. And we know that Jesus is an encourager, isn't he? He always encouraged little children. He always called the women